So I thought I would move this. Hi. Thought I would move this around to the best angle, but maybe this
I
is good here.
I
I
see
thought
your
more
album in the
better.
background.
That's one of my albums, not
Yeah, I see
Winona's.
your.
But Winona's on the wall up there. You can see here.
Let me see.
Can you see that?
Not yet, no. Put it up a little farther. Oh yeah, Winona Sioux Turnpike.
Oh, shoot, just broken glass. Oh well. Okay. Yeah, so you can, it's a bit glary in here
Oh
today.
wow.
There we go.
Oh my God. Highway of Heartache.
Yeah, that's the full
Wow.
size poster. And then this is actually one of my CDs called Of Ice and Men, but
Yeah.
it's also animated. So it's it's cool. Hey, with the animation, I say, or the it's not animation, but the cartoon kind of thing. Okay, just gonna grab a different glass of water.
Sorry, Janice ran to get the pizza for the kids. They're a little bit feral today.
Sorry, my Zoom crashed. So I don't know what
Oh,
happened. I apologize. That's the first time it's ever happened. I'm sorry, Barbara. That
don't
Zoom
worry.
crashed for the very first time. That was crazy. Um, wow. But yeah, so I've loved Highway of Heartache for years. I probably saw it when I was 15 or so. And I loved it so much because it was very John Waters and Hee Haw and Pee Wee's Playhouse. It was very non-PC, but it was just so colorful. But it always stuck with me until today, until these years. And so when we started this podcast, I always told my co-host, we have about 8 that are spread all over the world. I was like, you have to see Highway of Heartache. And the way that I always explained it, I was like, it's like John Waters, Hee Haw, and Pee Wee's Playhouse came together and had a baby.
I think that would describe it. And did you ever interview uh God, the director?
I could never find Gregory Wild.
Greg kind of went off the map. He had some problems and kind of went off the map there. So I would have been surprised if you'd said yes. I can't even find him now.
Which is
So
unfortunate. It's so strange because he made this wonderful cult movie and it was just gone with the wind, no pun intended.
yeah, but what happened, you know, at that time he was partners with kind of a Vancouver movie theater owner. They had lots of money and but it
Mm.
wasn't working out all that well. And then he met the love of his life about 2 years after this movie was released and was just so happy. And about 2 years later, that guy died.
Oh man.
He died suddenly, like over a weekend from some medical thing. And so here it was from here, 3 days
Right.
later, partner's gone. So that was, he kind of went suicidal and dropped out of things. Like
I,
had it been a movie mogul, he wouldn't have done that. I'm pretty sure.
I wish that's why I always tell people that, Highway of Heartache deserves to be seen. And I think if it would get its just due in its recognition today, especially, and we'll get into my co-host reaction, we'll get into the questions I asked, but especially with the rise of, say, Drag Race and the rise of Peaches Christ, the rise of Peaches Christ, who takes
I haven't
musicals and
seen that
movies.
one.
Peaches Christ is a drag queen in LA that
Okay.
host all these movie marathons and movie screenings with like Elvira and Downtown Julie Brown and
Oh,
host like Showgirls, the movie Showgirls. So I think Highway of Heartache would fit perfectly within that sort of realm. But yes, Highway of Heartache meant a lot to me because I mean it's silly, it's crazy, and it's goofy. But what's always stuck with me is your music. That has stuck
thank
with
you.
me ever since I saw the film eons ago. That was the one thing that always stuck with me, and I never forgot it. And so that's why I made it a mission to preach this message of Highway of Heartache to my co-host. I was like, you have to see this movie. It's so great. And it means a lot to me. That's why I'm just thrilled and honored. I never thought, 15-year-old me never thought that I would have the opportunity to tell you how much your music is so great in that film, and how much Winona Sue is sort of like a disease. You can't get rid of her. She's always in your mind.
It's about a disease. Do you know that the song uh, uh, uh,
Vernon Beaver Blues.
Burning Beaver Blues was banned in Alaska? We released it, and it made it to Alaska, and then it died a tragic death. They're pretty
Hey,
conservative there.
definitely. Hades and Mary, what was you all's reaction when you finally saw Highway of Heartache?
It was a lot, but it was very like there was so much color, and it had that again that Pee Wee's Playhouse kind of feel to it that you couldn't really look away, and the animation in particular is what I really really liked. It brought me back to like kind of the Sesame Street sort of animation style.
I ain't seen no Sesame Street like
That
that
was
before
that
in
was
my
the
life.
okay, that was the old school Sesame Street, but I love that art so much, and I looked forward to every single time it came on the screen, no matter how shocking it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got shocking scenes in it. I mean, none of them are overt, but they're still shocking scenes, right?
Uh-huh.
It was amazing to be a part of that, actually, because you guys may not. I don't know if what you're playing this from, if you've already started the interview, but I can tell stories now if you want.
Yes.
Okay.
How did you get involved with it?
So I was going to UBC for film scoring, and I met Greg, and he heard some other stuff that I wrote, and he said, "Hey, you want to do the movie score?" I'm like, "Sure, I'd love to." It was really fun to write the songs because they're so off the wall. A ring on my finger and a stiff on my hand, really. Burning Beaver Blues, and, but they were so fun to write. I had a great time at it, and we did the first half of the movie, and I thought it was just a student project, and it was. And then after I started doing the music, he said, "You should audition for the lead," because I had been taking acting courses there too. And so I auditioned and got the lead part, which was, none of it was paid. None of us were paid, but it was a great opportunity. And so then by then I was the lead, and we got done with the first half, and he goes, "We're going to do a second half now. So what you're seeing is the first half, and then the second half written after the first half." So we had no idea what was going to happen. I don't even think Greg knew what was happening, right? But we got it done, and that's what's cool.
It's so great, and it's so colorful, and it's so original in terms of we always compare it to Pee-wee's Playhouse and Hee Haw and John Waters, but there's so many, like you said, it's very overt, a lot of the jokes and the humor, and it's so wonderful. And I think it would have a perfect cult audience if it's ever able to be seen. Because it was well reviewed when it came out in terms of like Out magazine and a lot of LGBT magazines and stuff. It was well reviewed.
Yeah, even I forget the name of the movie. There was a movie magazine that reviewed it and gave it. They really liked it. So, but it got really bad reviews in Toronto. I don't know if you've read any of those. Yeah, because I didn't go over. I should have gone over. I don't know what I was thinking, but and they all went over to Toronto for the film festival. And as they got there, the headline was, "Highway of Heartache, this should never have been made." But it made them, what the result was is they became famous from that, and everyone loved them at the festival. Sometimes things work backwards to the reviewers' expectations, which I thought was fabulous. So
absolutely. And so the thing is, it's so goofy and it's so silly. But and Hades and Mary and I have talked about this, underneath the goofiness and the craziness, the soundtrack, in their opinion, their words are that it slaps. They like to say that music slaps.
Slap. I've heard
Slaps,
that
that it
term now.
slaps. But the music is so good in the film, regardless of the goofy and sometimes shocking lyrics. It's so well composed.
Thank you. Thank you. Like I say, it was fun to do. And I've never done a movie since, you know, because I live up in Whitehorse. I don't know if you know where that is.
Yukon.
The Yukon, way north, and probably I should have moved to Vancouver at that point, but I was playing in a band with some friends, and I would have felt really bad had I done that, right? And you don't know where some things are going to go, right? So I could have moved down there and moved right back. So I didn't, but I released CDs now and under my own name. And there's another thing. I don't know if you can find it, and I don't think I have a copy of it, but we have CBC over here in Canada, right? And they do shows. So they came out and they filmed me. They loved Highway of Heartache as well. And the guy knew me from other ways, and he came over and he filmed us, and he split the screen. And on one half I was Winona, on the other half I was myself. It actually won an award, and it's a really cool interview if you ever can get a hold of that. I forget the guy's name. And I realized that was made in 1994. It's now 30 years old. I had just not even thought of that. But if you can find that, it was pretty wild. And on one of the questions he asked me was, so do you think that Barbra Chamberlin will ever take over Winona Sue? And at the time I said, no, I don't think so. But I did. And then I started doing CDs of my own. So
With the whole country music, I mean, because I'm from the South originally, so I really love country music. How were you able, because in terms of it being country music, and even though it has, silly lyrics, it's actually very well composed country music. It reminds me a lot of Katie Lang's early country music before she transitioned to pop. Some, of course, it's inspired by the Judds, Winona Judd, etc. But how did you get in the mindset of writing really good 90s country music?
well, I'm not actually a country music fan, but and this some of that music is very blues based, and that's what I do now is a lot of blues, and I love blues, and so but it's that connection. Blues can go to any style of music pretty much, so it makes it very very flexible. And to be honest, all the blues musicians, like if I'm doing a tour, if I did a Winona tour, I get blues musicians to back me because they are the best. They understand rhythm, and they understand how to make a feel. Whereas often country musicians can only do one feel. It's quite twangy. But my uncles in Oregon were really into country. So every time we visited, I'd hear that twangy music because that didn't play at my house. But I there's parts of it I just really loved, and I really loved like the harmonies and the different feels you could get with it. So that's how I arrived at that and added my blues touch to it. So and it's all tongue in cheek. It's all tongue in cheek country, even though you
It
copy something, a style is still tongue in cheek. So
Country music, especially old country music, is very over the top and it's very melodramatic. And, whether or not it's very theatrical, old country music's very theatrical.
and Patsy Cline's one of my favorites, and Katie Lang as well. I love Katie Lang, and so yeah, I do kind of copy her a little bit, maybe Patsy Cline a little bit. Don't no.
Winona Sue is such a hilarious character. I love her so much. And obviously she's patterned after, all these country greats, including Winona Judd. Where did you pull this character from in terms of, did you have a big hand in molding this character of Winona Sue?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was given what she was going to be, kind of a white trash heroine, if you will. But it all came from my accent. So I can still do that accent to this day.
I love
Yeah,
it.
that's great.
It's ingrained in my DNA now.
I
So-
love it so much.
So as soon as I got that, the whole character kind of fell together. So that's basically what I based it on. And then I had the red wig and all the clothes and everything, and that also helps. Classic
She's
boot.
Winona is like, I mean, it's sort of like a John Waters film. Everybody, and Rocky Horror Picture Show, everybody in the film is bad, but Winona Sue, I feel like, is the only good character surrounded by really bad people. And I feel like she's very naive.
She's very naive. She was with no education. She was just like from the Appalachians, like J.D. Vance.
Oh, God. Maybe JD Vance and Winona Sue are long lost cousins, kissing
Perhaps.
cousins.
Wait, they go after couches?
Happened. She kissed a lot of different people, for sure.
Haiti said they probably going after couches or
Yeah,
whatever or whatever.
What?
Hey,
couch cousins.
couches.
I don't know that term, but
Oh,
I can imagine.
It's an internet
yeah.
joke.
There's a yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, that that candidate apparently in his youth may or may not have made love to a couch and it leaked out into the public. So nothing
Right.
surprising.
Right. I remember couch cousins. They definitely were couch cousins, right?
Yeah.
Hades and Mary.
J.D. Vance at all.
I'm telling you, sometimes real life is scarier than art. But it gives us a lot of material.
It
Hades
does.
and yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say Hades and Mary have a lot of interesting questions and antidotes and dotings on to give you.
Okay.
So circle back to my initial reaction to the film. I was like, wow, I love the color scheme here. And I'm like, wow, he's a shitbag. Good. He earned that shot. And,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, good. They earned that, and it's like, wow, everyone is terrible. And I loved it. Every second of it. I'm like, this is like, there's gnarly parts. Everything's hilarious because of how over the top it is. It's so campy, so glorious. I love the colors. I love the camp about it. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And I loved it. Every minute of it. And every single song was fantastic. First of all, musically, all of them were beautiful. You're onto something there about basing your country music off of blues. Because I know exactly what you're talking about with that twang. And it's like one note twang. And I'm bored already. But the blues has got like so much more interesting stuff about it. No shade to like country, but like newer countries had a lot, since the early 2000s, but that's neither here nor there. This was a masterpiece musically. Like, I remember watching Hee Haw growing up, and this could have been like a skit from the Hee Haw or something, but like Hee Haw After Dark,
Yeah. Hee Haw Unplugged.
Hee Haw Unplugged. Yeah. So like it was very reminiscent, and I'm like, it hits all the notes of like crazy like Hee Haw and like John Waters, and like it like elements of like trauma films as well, because of how heavy they went into like the goop and like the VD stuff and all of that. Like
There's a lot of
like absolute shock that goes beyond just, oh no, I've been shocked. And that's why I think it's like really comparable to like a trauma film also. But I love this one. This one was an absolute treat. I was like, what else has she done? Because like your music was fantastic, and like the acting throughout it, just superb. I loved it. It was such a fun film. You should do more.
Yeah.
The return of Winona Sue.
In retrospect, I wish I had gone to Vancouver and tried to see if I could do more stuff in film. But you end up doing what you're doing, and there you are. And I was married at the time, and up here, that would have been a big change. But I saw you shaking your head when I said blues, so I knew you understood that. So, which is really great, because I think a lot of people wouldn't get that except on Burning Beaver Blues, right?
Yeah.
I love the blues. I'm not a big fan of country. Country was spoiled for me because that was all that was on the radio when I grew up. So I was like over it.
Oh, you
But the
weren't taken over
blues,
by it. That's good.
yeah.
I know this is Mary's favorite question. Do you want to ask Barbara / Winona about secrets from the set?
Yeah, I love to hear about bloopers, ridiculous things that happened, things that were filmed that maybe weren't scripted, that kind of thing. I love those stories.
Okay, I'll tell you one of the main stories. So I
Yes.
said it. I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but because it was no one ever talked. Well, we did talk about it, but anyway. So I said it was a first half and a second half. They were filmed a year later. Do you remember the
Oh.
characters, bigwigs? The bigwigs, they kind of followed me around, were my backup singers.
I loved them so much.
Yeah, so much.
I was doing the
I
cow
know.
strut all the way to the store today.
They that's great. They weren't that nice of people, I have to say. And they tried to get Greg to kill my character off.
Oh, rude.
That doesn't happen in every film, but Greg,
Wow.
I
Were
know
they mean girls?
they wanted to be the stars. They wanted
Uh,
to sing the songs. So they literally tried to get my character killed off in when he was writing the second half. And then when I came back on set for the second half, they were so mean to me. I couldn't believe it.
wow.
I started, like I had my little place I was sitting. I started just ignoring them. And
Yeah.
at the same time, Greg decided I would emote more if he treated me badly too. He told me this afterwards. And I said, no, actually, probably that made it worse. I probably would have had more creativity had you had me being a happier person, but I think he got that idea from the bigwigs. But we all made it through. And after the movie was over, like Greg and I were friends for many years, but then I lost track of him. I don't know what happened with him. Um, I haven't heard anything through the grapevine that he's not alive anymore, but I don't know. So I'd love to see him again sometime, Greg, if you're listening. So, but that was one of the main things. There were lots of different things that happened on sets. There's always lots of different things. Like sometimes you get there, and we started filming around 10 o'clock. So I'd have to be there for makeup and everything at like really early, and which is painful for me. And then you'd sit around and then they'd be ready for the shot. So then you go do the several takes or how many ever it took. And then you'd have a break and something would always happen with that. But it was all the stuff that happened kind of in between and different things that people said. The first half, when it wasn't going to be a feature film, was a lot more fun, and everyone got along, and it was a very interesting shoot because of that. But sometimes you'd get there and you would still be there at 2 a.m.
Yeah,
and
that's a big thing.
Yeah.
there was no union there.
Right.
So and once you're in makeup, you don't want to let go of that because you're going to have to go all the way through it again to go to the next day. And we did have time off, which is good because I was going to school at UBC at the time and had to still do some of my homework. So
Oh.
I know.
Despite the big wigs and the drag queens, I consider them to be like the unspoken narrators. Despite the drama with the big wigs, which there are bitchy queens everywhere. You all's chemistry was really great.
Yeah. I never let it affect me on the set, other than I started sticking by myself for a while, and some of the other people like Pat was very friendly always through that. I have my friends on set too, but it literally was everybody was a drag queen, including the costume designer, who I'm trying to remember the name of her thing, but she came on very briefly as a drag woman. And that's basically what I am, right? The whole movie, I'm a drag woman, and in drag, except I'm a woman. And she came on, Sharon, I think was her name. And you'll see her, she's quite lovely and had a blonde wig on. I don't know if you remember her in the movie, but yeah, she came on quite briefly there. And I think there was one other drag woman and the rest were all men. So
Being immersed. Pardon?
So Winona Sue toured as an act. Winona Sue and the Turnpikes.
I read about this.
Yeah, we went across Canada twice, and we actually went and toured in Germany. So I know. It was quite fun. We actually played. We had a good agent over there, and we played this gig that was for the tennis championships over there, and we were one of the after hours bands, and it was so fun. We had a good time, and probably if I had, they were exhausting tours. You just didn't get more than 4 hours of sleep. And it was like so I kind of after all the stuff we did in Germany that time, I just kind of said, nope, got to take a break. And we had been asked to do this New Year's Eve gig, and I didn't do it. And I regret that now, but I'm not so tired now either. So, and I made all the Winona Sue costumes after the movie was done, except for my own costume because I still had those. And so I made those, and that was exhausting too. It takes a lot of hours and everything. So my backup singers have some pretty cool ones in the band, which you haven't seen. And I should see if I have any videos of that.
I would love to see that. I think I read deep on the internet. Didn't one of the, because I know that Winona Sue and the Turnpikes turned into sort of like a kitsch sort of band. You said that you tour. Wasn't there an album or a song that actually made it onto the Canadian country charts?
Yes, that one's on there. That's Highway of Heart. Was Highway of Heart? No, it's Cow Cow Strut. Cow Cow Strut.
It was the Cow Strut. Yes,
We
it's
did this
so
whole
good.
line dance with it and everything. One of the girls choreographed, one of my backup singers choreographed it, and we had it down. We all knew it, and
it hit gold. It hit like silver or gold on the Canadian charts, country music charts.
No, I wish.
No,
but it just cracked the top 50 or the top 100. Top 100, I think.
That's still impressive.
That's really impressive.
I'm probably the only act in Whitehorse that cracked the top 100 anything. So and,
when you toured as Winona though, and having to create this sort of guise, because you did Highway of Heartache and then you toured with your band Winona Sue and the Turnpikes. Did you ever come to get exhausted of the whole?
Absolutely. Like I said, we went all the way from Whitehorse all the way over to Ottawa. We did great gigs, and then back to Vancouver and did some gigs there. And it was no more than 4 hours a night because you have to play. Okay, maybe party a little bit and get on and off you went. And traveling across Canada. One time we played in, I think it was Winnipeg, and we were on our way to Saskatchewan, and we decided to drive at night, and there was no gas station open.
Oh my God.
And go all the way back to Winnipeg to fill the car up full of gas so that we can make it to the next one. We just thought there would be something open on the way, but there wasn't. So stuff like that happens, and then you pull in at like, I don't know, 4 a.m. and then you get up at 9 and everything. And even with Winona, yes, there was conflict in the band. There always is conflict in a band, always. And I had hired this road manager, and he was a friend, but some people, you give them power and they become this other person. And he became this person. He was the bitchiest road manager I have ever known. It was crazy. I mean, that said, we did play some really cool gigs, and we were welcome back. But we played the Calgary Stampede. That was fabulous and lots of fun. And there's a country festival in Merritt, BC. We played, and I I think everyone was exhausted, not just me. And after a while, people said, "No more, no more, stay away."
So
You know?
it's obviously campy and it's obviously an act and it's obviously a stage persona. But I've always been interested to ask you this. Did some people in some places that you go to not catch on to the joke that Winona Sue and the Turnpikes were a character?
Uh, yeah, one particular story in Germany, I will tell you, because we played and then we go back to our rooms and this guy showed up with flowers and wanted to marry me. He didn't want to marry me, he wanted to marry Winona. And he was obviously a farmer. And you're just like, really? You know, you know, we used to do a version of, instead of The Lion Sleeps Tonight, we did a version, I made up a version called The Mad Cow Sleeps Tonight. And
Oh my God, yeah.
instead of going a wee away, we went a moo away, a moo away, a moo away.
Okay.
And you know, I could have had a hit with that. Seriously, people kept asking for it over and over, and I probably should have recorded it. But and we did all the cow and cowboy songs we could find, like I wanna be a cowgirl, a cowgirl. You know that? Do you remember that song? So we did
Yeah.
a song. The whole thing was cow thing. People gave me things with cow spots. I still have most of them. Someone gave me this big white pot that they had painted with cow spots, which was pretty cool. cow spots everywhere. So yeah, so odd things happened and some people didn't get it, but in Canada most people got it. It was, I think, maybe a language thing with the German thing. I couldn't believe it. and
So they probably thought you were from like Atlanta or like Charleston, South Carolina.
well, you know, I know my accent is really, really southerly good, but it's actually really atrocious. And then when I went to Germany, I would do a southern accent with that. So I don't know if you know German at all, but if you said "Wie geht's es Ihnen," that's how you would say it. But I would say it "Wie geht's es Ihnen," you know, and just so. And I do the whole show like that and talk really slow so that hopefully they could understand me. In English, I'd switch in and out of English and German, but my German wasn't very good, so it was very simple stuff. And we gave everyone in the band different names, and like so it was Peggy Sue. All the women's name had Sue in it, and what did we call the man? I think it was Bob. We call him like
Billy Bob.
Bob, and that was pretty funny. So everyone was a character. It was quite fun. It was quite fun to put together, quite fun to do. And Germany was not as exhausting as Canada, but the Canadian stuff, just because there's so many miles in between places, was quite exhausting.
We
But
were able to recently find on eBay copies of Winona Sue and the Turnpikes, and it has a lot of the music from Highway of Heartache on there. And we were thrilled.
you mean just the music you found it?
Yeah, a CD, multiple copies.
Yeah, you can order it off Amazon actually. Or I have some and you could order them from me.
Well, we absolutely will do that.
Okay.
We will absolutely go to your store. But I wanted to ask.
That's good.
If I don't have a store, you have to email me.
I will
That's the-
email you.
I have
email
it,
you.
I have it for my. It's been this kind of thing. Like I said, when he filmed me, would Barbara ever overtake Winona? And then what happens to Winona? So I don't put Winona Sue on my Barbara website because I think it would be confusing. And we've lost the Winona website already. So yeah, you have to email me personally.
We will. I wanted to ask you, I forgot to ask you this, but I'm a stickler for sets and stuff. And I can just imagine your imagination and your creativity going wild when you step onto those sets that are so beautifully painted. And there's, the cactuses and the cow spots. How did it feel to be on a physical set like that? What was going through your mind?
Greg really was a genius at making these. It was his concept, his whole thing. And that those people who were volunteering to do those sets worked hours. They would be there till 2 a.m. almost every morning or every night trying to get them perfect, because Greg would accept nothing less than perfect for those. And it was great because you entered a world that was very cartoon-like and
Yeah.
and very much his vision. And our costumes reflected it, and it does really help the characters, right? So
It's-
Oh yeah.
Their cartoon
they're-
characters come to life.
oh,
The
yeah.
hair. The hair in this movie. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. It was so out there, so extra. I was like, yes.
Mhm.
Everyone
we
should
do
wear
have
hair like
that.
this at all times.
I'll look for that video of Cow Cow's strut, because we actually filmed it up here. I got a grant and flew them up here, and they drove these big letters. If you see the video, you'll see them. And he took wood and he did Winona Sioux and the turnpikes out of wood with that stuff you use for cabinets. And it's a lot of work. And it was just wild that he did that. Like, he never did things halfway. And we came up, we shot it, we painted the stage green because they didn't say we couldn't. And then I got in trouble for it afterwards because they had to paint it back black. So nothing was ever boring with that whole thing. And those letters are somewhere still in Whitehorse, but since I was moving around a lot, I lost track of them. So, but what an effort on his part. And he directed the whole thing.
I want to
was-
see it so bad. I want to see the music video so bad.
Yeah, I have to
Mhm,
have it
mhm.
somewhere on my computer. I go for years without thinking much about Winona, and then things get lost. But I know it's here somewhere. And then then you update your computer and hope that everything works from the past. So I do hope I can find it. And yeah, I should it'd be great to
Embrace
find.
her. Embrace her again.
Yeah. Well, I should. I'm a bit heavier than I was back then, so the costumes do not fit anymore. So I have to start over from scratch. We'd have to
You
go
mean the
find
pasties won't fit?
what's that?
The cow pasties won't fit.
They would probably still fit.
Hades and Mary love quotes. Do you have any favorite quotes from Highway of Heartache?
Oh my
Well-
goodness. My
Oh.
favorite one has got to be one of the bigwigs after she wakes up from a coma, and just the absolute tone is like, it's a goddamn fucking Christian miracle or something. And it's just it was
Actually, yes, that is one of my favorite lines. And and when something happens, I was back when I was hanging around the Winona Sioux people, even in Whitehorse, from the band, because those were all Whitehorse musicians. That's a goddamn Christian miracle,
yeah, yeah.
It's a great line.
I love it.
is
It's
my
so
favorite line.
quotable.
What's that?
It's so quotable. I love it.
It is. It is. And it's so applicable. Do
It is. I love that.
you have other ones that you like?
I don't remember it anymore.
Just tried to remember.
Yeah, it's gone. It was something
I
about a
love
song.
I
Or
love
Pepper.
Winona Sue's my sweet heavenly Jesus.
That line.
Or your Beau's infamous line, I was just about to spit.
I was just about
Yes. Yes. I heard a lot of quotes from that film. It actually did really well on the West Coast. Greg and I decided to go on this trip, and we stopped at a bar in Seattle, and we were at the bar, and we started hearing these quotes from Winona Sioux. And we were like, Greg goes, wait, where did you get that quote? Oh, this movie, Highway of Heartache. He goes, I'm the director, she's the actress. And free drinks all around. And
Yeah.
and yeah, so we were really
Fantastic.
surprised that there was that much interest down the whole West Coast, because Portland and Seattle and Vancouver, huge gay populations, right? So so and probably in other places too. I know a friend of mine went to New York, and she was walking around, and there was a drag queen show, and it was and she walked in, and there was a guy impersonating Winona Sioux in New York, and he had asked me permission, but then I had forgotten about it. And she walked in and there was Winona Sue on stage
Oh my
doing
God.
probably Beaver Blues, I think.
Yes.
And if you took the three most popular songs, if you Highway of Heartache, Cow Cow Strut, and Burning Beaver Blues. In fact, I walked into one of the restaurants up here in Whitehorse and it was blasting from, from the kitchen. So,
Oh
you know,
my God.
yeah, no,
That's
that was really cool.
That
So
would
New
be
York,
such a trip.
probably, if we had gone to New York, we might have heard some of those quotes and connected. Going to gay bars, of course.
Yeah, because we most of the cult musicals that we love were forgotten for a period of time. But you know, the gay community and the cult musical community always resurrect things and they hold things near and dear to themselves and they embrace it. And you know, it's a shame that Highway and Heartache is not necessarily it's not on streaming or anything. There was a DVD that came out, you know, a few years ago. You can buy it on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, DVD. That's how I first found it. And then I sent you a link to the DVD rip. But it would be totally embraced by cult movie houses and the gay community again if they saw it, because it is so John Waters and it's over the top and it's gauche and it's kitschy and it's campy, but it's so relevant to today. And I think if it's given another chance, if it's given a screening, for instance, in Portland, I'll talk to Helene about that. I think it would do really, really well. And people, I would love for you to go down there and do a Q&A in Portland with people who have seen it for the first time.
They'd
Well,
eat
you
it
know,
all.
we did some screenings in Vancouver, but we never did Seattle and Portland. I think that was kind of a mistake, even though it did spread. Like I think there are people that would absolutely know what Highway of Heartache was. But then on the plane ride back, I just went down to Vancouver for this thing, and I came back, and the guy I was sitting next to was a gay guy and very much into, like, he was styling, and we were talking, and he did not know what Highway of Heartache was. So he said he would look it up because he's in the movie industry. So then I think, oh, maybe that's the end of it. Maybe after 30 years, that's the end of it. So that's interesting that you would think it might do something. It was always an underground hit anyway, always underground.
It's so much better than a lot of the cult musicals that I have had my co-host watch, because there's something about it. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but like the music is what transcends it all. And there's a lot of musicals that we love, especially cult musicals, that the movie's great and the humor is wonderful and the dialogue's wonderful, but the music transcends it. And the music in Highway of Heartache, like, I know you were having a good time and you were having a fun time writing these really ridiculous novelty songs, but the music's really good. Like, I was listening to the song today. My favorite song is actually not any ones that have you mentioned. I love "Bullets Don't Mend Broken Hearts." That
Mhm. Yeah.
song,
Sad song.
I love that, but it's so good. The way that you composed it and the way that it sounds like something Patsy Cline or something Katie Lang would have sang in her early country music career.
Yeah, I actually did draw a lot on Patsy Cline for that song because you have to have that lovely melody, right? With all the
It's so good.
strings in the background, you know? So
That's like the best. That's the best. I feel like that song transcends the film. And I also really love More Than a Cigarette. That song stuck in my head for 10 years after I
Yeah.
saw this film.
really, you know,
I loved it.
I've never written those songs without Greg writing that script. You know, he just wouldn't have.
But
Like,
they're
Mhm.
so good.
is that a compliment? You know, I love you more than a cigarette. For Winona Sue, coming from her, yes, that's a compliment. Or maybe
Because
anyone
it
else, not.
because it reminds me of the old country ballad that Katie Lang covered in the 90s called "I'm Down to My Last Cigarette." And I was singing both today on my walk. I was like, wait a minute,
Oh,
but they're so synonymous with one another.
you know, I never connected those two songs. That's really interesting. And there are some big similarities, aren't there? Because I know
So it's
that's
all,
a song.
yeah. It's a great song. Hades and Mary. Before I ask a couple more questions and then we'll end, do you have any other musings about Highway of Heartache? I love your costumes, by the way.
I do too. They're very Winona.
Oh, we have to.
Oh, your
Um,
Winona look. They're like the Winona.
Yeah, thank you. Um, I think we touched on like everything.
I just can't
It-
stress how much like the music was just so good, honestly. Like I wasn't expecting it. Like
Same.
just watching all the beautiful colors and the scenery and everything would have been a good, comedy. It would have been great to watch. But then you get the music in there and it's like, well, you really have something special here.
Yeah, I don't even
Like-
like country, and I like this music.
That's the one. That's the one. Like
I can
there's
say the same thing. No,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you love it. It's nice after 30 years of, and I was writing the music probably a year and a half before,
yeah.
and it's disappointing that Greg didn't keep doing movies because he kind of quit that after his love of his life died, and because he
Aw.
was working on this one, and I already had the song composed in my head, the title song for it, right? And and another one that I actually put on my CD, which is called "My Heart Is Yours" on my
Mhm.
CD. That it wasn't a Winona movie, but it would have been just as kitschy and just as cool, And yeah, I should maybe send you a copy of that song because
Yeah.
So you,
that was a song about this guy who wishes for a really big dick, but then his dick grows around the world, and then he's miserable, of course. And
that's not where
love
I
it so
thought
much.
that was going. That's not where I thought that
amazing.
was going.
Oh my
no
god.
one would think that's where that's going. But this
I'm
girl's in
thrilled.
love with him, and he thinks that the whole purpose in life is to have a big dick, but she's trying to tell him that looks aren't everything, but she's kind of a heavier character, right? So
Yeah.
so that song is about my heart is yours, even though your dick's going around the world. and and you're heavier, right? So
Mhm.
love each other for who we are, not what we look like or have, right?
So
I
you're
think
saying
that's
that
good.
so you're saying that Gregory was going to do another musical after Highway of Heartache, and you had written some songs for that. Is that what you said?
I had written My Heart Is Yours already, and because he had part of the script done, and I had been working on the title song, which would have been very funky and would have been very cool. But it like I say, he fell apart, and everyone goes through the things that they go through, and I don't think he's ever done a movie since, which is too bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I've looked for him for years. I've tried to contact him and look him for 10 years. And it's so unfortunate because I think Highway of Heartache was played on Logo at one, the gay and lesbian channel in America, when it first launched. Or it was also on Bravo. It was played on Bravo. And
Oh
I
my
think
God.
Yeah,
the DVD
Maybe-
that was released was in conjunction with Bravo, I believe.
Oh, really? Well, he might have set those things up. I don't know. I don't know who's managing it now, because we had a falling out after a while, and these things happen. But unfortunately, I haven't been able to be in contact with him. It's like try and go to the same numbers and the same emails and everything, and then nothing comes back. And we it took a while to have the falling out, but we did, and it's just over stupid stuff. It always is, but
Always.
Yeah.
I do miss him, and I miss the whole scene there, but I don't think he ever recovered from that whole tragedy. And
I hope
last
he
time,
knows that. I know it's probably hard. I mean, but I wish that he knew, and I hope that you know now that, it is Highway of Heartache is getting us a little audience. And I keep pushing and I keep hyping up my fan base of the cult musicals, and I keep talking to different drag groups about it. And like, you've got to see this, you've got to see this. It's perfect. It fits perfectly within a double feature of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and you have Highway of Heartache and maybe Pink Flamingos after or something. I mean,
Yeah, warm up the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
Warm up the audience to Pink Flamingos with Heartache.
I remember when we released the CD in Vancouver, we played it at his partners had the big one downtown that was really an awesome movie theater. And we played it there, and people walked out. They literally walked out. And I was watching it in costume. And I'm like, oh my God, never do this in costume again. Because, it's the abortion sequence that does it. It's so
Oh, yeah.
cartoony that you wouldn't think that it would offend people, but it offended some people. So there you go.
But life is too complicated and too serious. You have to make fun of it and you have to laugh. And I love, love, love Highway of Heartache so much. The last question I'll have for you is, what, if you in your mind and your thoughts, what do you hope the legacy of Highway of Heartache could be and should be?
Well, I wasn't sure where it would go other than a cult classic for the rest of its natural life. And I think that's where it belongs and where it will probably go. What I hope for it is that it keeps going and doesn't die, and that it makes people happy 20 years from now, 50 years from now, because it's so off the wall,
It's so great.
God.
It's so unique and so fun. Like, I don't see it ever getting swept under the rug forever. Someone's gonna
No,
find it
it's too
somewhere,
crazy.
and there'll be James 2.0 in the future, like 50 years from now, doing like a super ultra podcast. Be like, look at this vintage film.
No,
I think-
you have a drag. Go ahead.
I think it will get its just due. And I think the gay community will definitely embrace it. And I could see people doing drag to these characters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
I think it may have hit its peak when my friend walked into that bar in New York and they were doing me as a drag. And it's kind of surprising. It might have been done in more places. I have no idea, but most people wouldn't, the general public would not know who that character was, But used to
Not
play
yet.
every Halloween on CBC. Did you know that?
No.
Every Halloween they play, for about 5 years, they played Highway of Heartache.
It needs to come back. It needs to
Yeah,
come back.
I love that as a
They
Halloween
stop.
ritual.
Yeah.
And you're still doing music. You're still continuing to do music in Whitehorse, correct?
I've just started back I'm making my next CD. This will be my 4th one that's mine, but I do have my Winona Sue CDs. And it's because I have always loved vocal music. So at one point I took over the Whitehorse Community Choir. So I've been choir for 19 years now, but I retired in May. But so now I'm getting back into playing bars and playing blues, but I had to get my chops back. I had to get lots of stuff back, and I'm still kind of working on that. But I play the bar this Saturday. And then when I go to Portland, I'm going to play and stuff. And
Please let me know when you go to Portland, and I can see if I can get Helena to come see where you play or whatever, because she loves Highway Heartache.
Yeah,
She would love to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, give her my email and yeah, it'd be great to meet her and because I think if you're going to make something a cult classic, that it has to have champions in different places. So she's the one in Portland, there's one in Seattle, one in Vancouver, which I think that wouldn't be so hard to get, in different places. And the reason in England, it did that whole tour in England, and that's why people know it in England, but they don't really know it in Germany. They only knew the band in Germany, So, and yeah, I think there's pockets, and then if they started playing it, but again, it comes back to legalities in that, like, that was part of the falling out. It was that I wasn't allowed to do my own stuff with the character, except the band. I was allowed to do the band, but then I couldn't really, and I could do my own songs, and I could do songs wherever I wanted to do them. That was a part of the settlement. But I couldn't write a script I couldn't have taken it any further than he took it. I wouldn't have wanted to either, because he has the vision for it. But yeah, it was a little restricted that way. We almost had a record deal with Feldman and Associates in Vancouver. And then because the lawyers couldn't come to agreement, we couldn't have
Oh.
that. And it's things like that that, you know, they're kind of upsetting. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's up.
This is a weird question, but do any of Highway of Heartaches or Winona Sue songs ever pop into your head? Do you ever just break out, or do you ever hum any of those songs in your house or when you're by yourself?
Not so much anymore, mostly because I'm writing new songs, right? That's what's in my head. And some of my songs off my CDs, I like them too, right? But what will pop back is I sometimes do these jam nights, and I have a fan in the audience that comes in and goes, Burning Beaver Blues, Burning Beaver Blues, you know? So
Do you sing it?
I I I think I will in the next one because I know he'll be there, and the words are still in my brain. I just have to sort them out how they went, and it's easy to play because it's a blues, right? So thanks for reminding me about that. I should get that.
Also really like this song. This is a side note. Don't Let This Philly Fry. What a song.
Yeah,
I feel like the backup song that
the whole
one.
scene was incredible. Was so
The whole scene.
I got to satisfy my backup kitschy goddess all the way through
yeah,
that whole
Yeah.
movie. And I just love kitschy backups. They're so hilarious.
And I will say, I rewatched it today. I actually fancied, what is his name? What is Hades? Who
Sure.
are you dressed as? What is his name?
Was it Crawdad?
Oh,
Crunch?
me?
Tenderfoot.
Tenderfoot.
I actually fancy Tenderfoot.
he he was the only nice person in there.
I mean,
And he
he's
was
the
my
only nice
he was
man.
still
That's
my
what I
friend in
wanted
the
to
second
say.
half because he didn't try to kill my character off.
Oh,
Oh
but
my
there's
god.
something about those big teeth and that big old bouffant hair. I was like, I kind of
Yep.
fancy Tenderfoot.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a
Dude,
nice guy. I don't know what
so
happened to
much
him.
like
Now I'm really curious about what happened to everyone, you know? I wonder.
You should
so
totally try one day to get everybody back together. That would be a dream come true.
I wonder
yes.
I wonder who's
Can
still
I just
alive.
say how great the name Crawdad Crenshaw is? I just after I just walked around the house being like Crawdad Crenshaw. I was like, this is the greatest name ever. I want it to be my drag name. Crawdad
He
Crenshaw.
Crawdad Crenshaw for Halloween.
Yeah.
And I will say, as a
That's his nickname.
Southerner,
Call me.
as a Southerner, I love Southern stereotypes because even if, you know, we have so many different stereotypes as me being from the South, you either have designing women or Gone with the Wind or Hee Haw, or you have Deliverance. And I always say, we are all of those things in the South. You will find.
Oh my God, I never put that together with Highway of Heartache, but I'm
You,
sure could.
there's definitely a cousin of mine that's probably a Winona Sue. Definitely.
Really? Really?
Definitely. We
Bad
like
things
our,
happen?
I mean, but we don't have a record deal from it. But you're nicer than we could have ever hoped. And it's such a dream come true to speak with you because I've loved Highway of Heartache for so long. And we've been so blessed to talk to people that we admire. And we really want to continue to keep in contact with you and see if there's, see about your new music and also contact you about the Highway of Heartache music. And hopefully, possibly when you ever attend a screening of the film, we would love to be there. And we would love to set it up
Okay.
one day.
I'm retired now. I can do that, except I still work 3 jobs, but music being one of those jobs, teaching being another one. So
I
yeah.
love that. But do you have any final musings on Winona or anything you've ever wanted to say about her?
Oh, yeah. She was an amazing character, and she was mostly fun to play. The movie was mostly fun to make, but it would be interesting to play that character again, I guess. I would definitely have to have the skirt bigger. but actually that would work quite well. So there's my musings. A larger, grander Winona Sue.
If you ever decide to dress up as Winona Sue, we will have a carpool of cult musical fans driving over the Canadian border to come see you.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
true.
I
Dress
still,
like this.
I still have the wig.
Oh
Believe
my
it or not.
God.
Oh my god, I love that wig so
Yeah.
much.
We will
Yeah,
all
and
be
the
dressed
kind of
like
conditions.
It
we will
is.
all be dressed like Hades and Marion. We'll be stuck at the Canadian customs, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry, they're just American."
You know what I would have wished back then for that film is that it became like everyone would come to the show dressed like that and know the lines, you know, like the cult movies. Oh God.
Rocky Horror.
Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
I would have loved it to become the underground Rocky Horror. How's that?
It would be so fun to do as
It
a
would,
shadow
it
cast.
would.
If we get the rights for it, we can probably make it happen at
Yeah.
some point.
Are you guys
We
trying to
have-
get the rights for the
Do Rocky
movie?
Horror Shadowcast.
I have no idea how to do that.
If you did, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't
Yeah.
either. And yeah, it's you'd have to get a hold of Greg.
One
Yeah.
day, maybe.
See this
Yeah.
podcast.
The
and be like,
illustrious Greg, please, can we have fun with your movie? I love
the
you, Greg.
illustrious.
And you and Greg, if you're listening, you and Barbara need to come back together to give us more Winona Sue and the Turnpikes.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be really awesome.
Thank
Okay.
you so much for being a
Thank
wonderful
you.
person, Barbara.
Well, and this has been lots of fun, so thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you so
coming on.
much.
Yes. No, so nice to
You-
meet you.
It was so
You-
nice to meet you.
Please send me links to wherever you're showing this.
We will, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.